What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and it's time to give you my New Year's Six Bowl projections heading into Week 4 of the 2023 college football season. Got a big-time weekend of college football coming up tomorrow night. Pretty much the main games are tomorrow, but we have some games coming up for you tonight as well. We got Purdue and Wisconsin coming up pretty much, tonight, and then we also got NC State playing tonight. So, yeah, we got NC State and Virginia playing tonight, so we got some games coming up for you tonight. But mainly, it's mostly about the Saturday games. But we're going to give you my New Year's Six Bowl projections heading into the fourth weekend of the college football season. I haven't made a ton of changes here to my New Year's Six Bowl projections just because it was a pretty quiet weekend this past weekend. But I think we could expect a lot of changes after week number 4 of the college football season. Probably one of the biggest weekends coming up of the college football season since week number 2 a couple weeks ago. The bowl projections kind of, changed, after week 2, but not a whole lot. But I think we're going to expect a lot of changes next week. But heading into week 4, I haven't made a lot of changes. I only made one change to one bowl game, and that was pretty much it. But, you can go back and also watch my playoff projection video if you have not seen that video yet, and see who I projected in my college football playoff. Mainly how this video works, we're pretty much, focusing mainly on the 4 other New Year's Six Bowls, and again, the New Year's Six Bowls are a little bit different this year compared to last year, and it just seems like any team can play in any bowl game this year. So we're going to get right into it here, and also mainly we're just kind of, basing this off of how the teams played over the weekend, this past weekend. So let's get right into it here with my New Year's Six Bowl projections for week number 4, and we'll start with my playoff projections from yesterday. In the Rose Bowl, in the number 3 versus number 2 playoff semifinal matchup, I have Florida State and Michigan. I haven't made a change there from playoff projections from yesterday. Yeah, Florida State was not very impressive against Boston College, but, they still got that win over LSU. That's what I'm getting them credit for. I mean, this is a great Florida State team. They got Clemson coming up tomorrow afternoon. That's going to be a big-time game there. Very important game, I believe, for Florida State just to kind of show that they are back, back to where they used to be in the ACC, that top, ACC team where they won the national title and everything, where they used to have Jameis Winston as well. So, yeah, Florida State is still my number 3 seed. Michigan here was my number 2 seed. Michigan, they still haven't found their offense yet, but they'll get Jim Harbaugh back tomorrow. They're playing the Rutgers. I don't think the Rutgers will be a big challenge for Michigan. I know the Rutgers are undefeated at 3-0. They have looked good in the first 3 weeks, but I don't really see the Rutgers pulling off an upset there against Michigan. And again, Michigan, I think, will find their offense this weekend once they get Jim Harbaugh back. He had that 3-game suspension and everything, so Michigan will be back with him. So, again, this is who I had in my playoff semifinal matchup here in the Rose Bowl, the number 2 versus number 3 matchup. And then the other semifinal in the Sugar Bowl in my number 4 versus number 1 matchup, I had Texas and Georgia. No change here. Texas has got that win over Alabama still a couple weeks ago. This team is the reason why I still have them in my playoff projections. They got off to a slow start against Wyoming, but the performance against Alabama was enough for me to keep them in my playoff projections. But, Texas, got off to a slow start against Wyoming. But, Wyoming is a really good team. They beat Texas Tech in the Big 12, so that's why they're pretty good. And, Texas is not a bad team. We've seen that, over a couple weeks ago. They are for real this year, a playoff contender, especially after that win against Alabama a couple weeks ago. But they're heading on the road to face Baylor tomorrow. Could they, possibly lose that game? It's happened in the past. We'll find out if Texas is really good enough going into that game tomorrow against Baylor. Georgia had to come back from behind in that game against South Carolina. They were down 14-3. But they were still able to manage, to come back from behind in that game. Defensively, the defense kind of took care of business in that second half. It seemed like South Carolina had a really good opportunity to pull off the upset. But again, Georgia kind of shows us why they are the top team in the country. So again, this was no change for me here last week in my projections and the playoff projections and everything. In the Sugar Bowl, again, I had Georgia and Texas here. So these were my playoff projections from yesterday. Again, you can go back and watch that video if you have not seen it. Let's get now into the main New Year's Six Bowl games heading into Week 4 of the season. And we'll start with the Cotton Bowl here. No change here for me. I got Oklahoma and USC here. I've been very impressed with this Oklahoma team in the first 3 weeks of the season. Their defense is the main reason why I've been so impressed with this team. I talked about the defense, for the past couple weeks now. It seems like Oklahoma's defense is back to where it used to be. Oklahoma didn't have that kind of type of defense, when Lincoln Riley was there. And, it seems like they're just so much better on the defensive side of the football. Offense, very explosive as well. They'll play their first Big 12 game of the season against Cincinnati tomorrow. I don't think that's going to be a real challenge for Oklahoma, but you never know. It's the Big 12 conference. You got conference games starting up this weekend. So maybe that's a challenge for them, but I don't really see Oklahoma struggling. USC, they had a bye week this past weekend, but I'm going to still keep them here in the Cotton Bowl. I think this is your top team in the Pac-12 for right now, but, it seems like every Pac-12 team is really playing well. Almost every single Pac-12 team is playing well. You got Oregon State, you got Washington State, you also got Oregon, you got Colorado, that's been the most surprised team as of late, and, you pretty much got Washington as well. And you can see how well the Pac-12 has been, this year for so far in the first 3 weeks of the season. But USC, not much to talk about them. They had a bye week this past weekend, but they're back in action tomorrow. And again, this is a matchup I would love to see. Lincoln Riley going up against his former team of Oklahoma. I think this would be a really big offensive battle. Defensively, I would say that Oklahoma has the advantage here. USC, we have to see what their defense is capable of going into the rest of the year. Are they a really good defense, or is it just, the same kind of defense that we saw from last year? So that is my Cotton Bowl matchup, Oklahoma and USC here. Fiesta Bowl, no change here either. I got Washington and Tulane here for the fourth consecutive week in a row. Washington, they've been very explosive on offense. Look what they did against Michigan State, and that offense just continues to really score a lot of points. Michael Penix looking like one of the top quarterbacks in the Pac-12, maybe besides Caleb Williams and other Pac-12 quarterbacks. But again, this Washington team, dominated against Michigan State on the road. Not a very tough game at all. They took care of business in that game. And then you got Tulane here. I thought about making a change here with Tulane and Fresno State once again here this week. But again, I kept Tulane here just because they, are probably one of the best group of 5 teams that is playing really well. Fresno State, just really kind of hard to tell where they're going to be at. I don't know if they'll be, undefeated for very long. But if Tulane kind of loses, a game or two perhaps, we could probably put Fresno State here if they're still undefeated. But Tulane, I'm still giving them credit after that, loss to Ole Miss. They really competed in that game, especially after a backup quarterback, played in this game. Their starting quarterback, Michael Pratt, was out in this game. So Tulane, I'm still giving them credit for that. Not a really impressive win against Southern Miss, but other than that, I think they're still in my Fiesta Bowl prediction or projection here. And again, Washington and Tulane here, 2 teams that have been really good, but Tulane has 1 loss. But again, Washington has been the much more better team. So that is my Fiesta Bowl projection. Again, Washington and Tulane here, no change here at all. All right, let's go to the Peach Bowl. No change here either. I got Penn State and Notre Dame. Penn State, they will play Iowa tomorrow. Their defense has been very impressive for me in the first 3 weeks. And you also look at this offense for Penn State. They have looked really much better on offense compared to last year. And again, this is a Penn State team that I think can really challenge Ohio State and Michigan in the Big Ten. Ohio State found their offense last week, but Michigan still hasn't found their offense. And again, I think this is a Penn State team that can really challenge Ohio State and Michigan in the Big Ten East. We haven't really seen, the explosive offense in the Big Ten yet because the Big Ten has not been good in the first 3 weeks. But maybe this is kind of the time where the Big Ten starts to make a statement. Penn State, though, I think they've been the most impressive, team so far in the Big Ten East. You look at last week, of course, took care of business against Illinois, got off to a slow start in that game, but their defense is the reason why they won that game. They forced the turnovers at the end of the day as well. Notre Dame, they've been very explosive on offense. I'm going to keep them here in the Peach Bowl, but I tell you what, if they win against Ohio State this weekend, that's going to probably put them as a playoff contender. And like I said in the upset alert video a couple days ago, that game's going to kind of determine if Notre Dame is a playoff contender or if they are also, for real this year. Are they not a fluke? Are they not the same Notre Dame team that we saw over the Brian Kelly era? Sam Hartman has really changed this offense for Notre Dame, and it seems like this Notre Dame offense is going to score some points in this game against Ohio State. But again, defensively, Ohio State has a great defense, so we'll find out tomorrow night what Notre Dame is going to do to Ohio State. But again, that game's going to kind of determine here if Notre Dame is a playoff contender or not. But Penn State and Notre Dame here, this is a matchup I would love to see here in the Peach Bowl, but no change here again for my Peach Bowl projection. All right, let's go to my last New Year's Six Bowl game of these Week 4 projections, and it's going to be in the Orange Bowl. I made a change here, Ohio State and North Carolina. And if you look at Ohio State, I did not have them here in a bowl game, for the last, 2 weeks, in the first 3 weeks of the season, because they haven't, shown me a lot of, stuff yet. They haven't really shown a lot of credit for the offensive side of the football. We thought their offense was overrated in the first couple weeks, but they finally found their offense this past weekend. That's not the reason why they're here. Tennessee lost to Florida. Tennessee was here in the Orange Bowl for me last week because they were the highest, the second highest ranked SEC team, but Tennessee come up, lost to Florida on the road this past weekend. So that was enough for me to put Ohio State here in the Orange Bowl. And then you got North Carolina here, the same pick for me. I was very impressed with this North Carolina team. Their defense played really well against Minnesota. Minnesota doesn't have a great offense, so that's the reason why I think North Carolina just played some really solid defense. But again, North Carolina has been making a lot of mistakes in the first 3 games. Drake May has thrown, some interceptions in every game this season. If he doesn't really, throw an interception in some of these games, I think North Carolina could win a much bigger game. But again, this is not a change here with North Carolina in the Orange Bowl. The only change I made here was Ohio State. And again, I was just very impressed with Ohio State, last weekend compared to, the first 2 weeks. Again, they finally found their offense against Western Kentucky. Kyle McCord looked good. The receivers looked good. And that was enough for me to put Ohio State here, and also just because Tennessee lost to Florida. So that was enough for me to put the Buckeyes here in the Orange Bowl. So this is the only bowl game that I made a change to. North Carolina was not a change, though, of a team. I still keep them here in the Orange Bowl because they're the second-ranked highest ACC team. You got Miami out there. You also got Louisville in that conversation. But the ACC, I think, could be wide open if Clemson beats Florida State this weekend. And, the Big Ten, I think, is still wide open as well. So we're going to see what happens here in the last few weeks of the college football season. But again, this is the only change I made here to my bowl games and my projections this weekend. It's Ohio State and North Carolina. Again, I was just very impressive with Ohio State, but can they score points against Notre Dame tomorrow? That would be the question, and that game's going to kind of determine if Ohio State is still Ohio State. Are they the same offense? Are they the same Ohio State team that we saw in the playoff last year? We'll find out tomorrow night against Notre Dame. And those are my New Year's Six Bowl projections heading into week number 4 of the 2023 college football season. Let me guys know what you think about these New Year's Six Bowl projections. Do you agree or disagree? And also give me your New Year's Six Bowl projections down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports Channel.